against the American Bar Association, ABA, on behalf of a blind student seeking law school admissions. When Bernstein was elected to the Supreme Court, he had to stop practicing law, and another attorney took over the case, but was not successful. The ABA wasn't his only formidable adversary. Before becoming a judge, Bernstein dedicated his career to fighting the rights of the disabled, taking on entities such as Delta Airlines, the city of Detroit, and even his alma mater, the University of Michigan. While practicing law, he was elected by the voters of Michigan to serve an 8-year term on the Wayne State University Board of Governors, but narrowly lost the Democratic nomination for Michigan's Attorney General. Can you imagine? Bernstein described his law school experience, particularly his first year, as one of the most overwhelming, intense struggles of his life. Every day was a tremendous challenge, he said. There were several occasions when he considered dropping out. My friends, I'm sharing this with you today to emphasize a point. We are all individuals, and we must remain an individual. We must be able to make our impact on this world. I watched his presentation at one of those famous TED conferences, and he speaks how every one of us must never take or really celebrate every single thing that we're able to do. Like he says, obviously because he's blind, he says, just celebrate the fact that you can make it and you can recognize the borders of your room. You can go out, you can walk, you can make decisions for yourself. Wow, what an important thing. And I present the idea today, dear friends, that Torah, Shavuos, provides us that ability. The Torah provides us the keys to unleash the amazing power of individual soul that you have, that each of us have. He goes on to say what my classmates could accomplish in an hour took me 5 hours to complete. I studied 7 days a week without taking a break. It took so long and required so much effort and intensity, it's impossible to explain just how intense it was. And he goes on to tell us, with unyielding hours of hard work and support of classmates and professors, he overcame his biggest struggles, and he graduated from Northwestern in 1999. 13 years later, the judge would experience another unbelievable hurdle. On a particular hot August day, Bernstein was taking one of his long walks. This one was through New York Central Park, when he was struck from behind by a speeding cyclist. He was going over 30 miles an hour, and he lost control, and he veered into the pedestrian area. The accident left him. It went right into his back. It left him with a shattered hip and crushed pelvis. He was hospitalized in New York, Mount Sinai, for 10 weeks. The justice's life took on greater challenges, including learning how to walk, to finding his way to adjust to chronic pain. Can you imagine, dear friends? Born blind, went through everything else, and this is what happens. Once healthy enough to resume his work responsibilities, he made daily calls from his hospital room to his long-term law clerk, Timothy McLean. Because Bernstein maintained a positive perspective throughout the ordeal, McLean, who remained in Michigan, didn't realize the severity of his boss's injuries until details emerged in the media and through subsequent conversations with Bernstein. His attitude is always, how can I turn a situation into something positive and have a meaningful impact? I'm constantly amazed by him, says his law clerk. Even after 6 years, the amazement hasn't faded. So although Bernstein could have felt sorry for himself, especially since he always used athletics to find his inner strength, he maintained his level of tenacity by striving to make the best out of his new situation. Despite initial feelings of sadness, once he realized a full recovery was not possible, he changed his way of thinking and looked for ways to best adapt to it. As you go through life, it's fine to be disappointed and frustrated, but you have to make the decision at a certain point that you are going to focus on getting on with it. You're not happy about it, but you have to find purpose and reason, so you dedicate yourself to doing something good. An easy life does not necessarily equal a good one. Often those who walk among us and no struggle will lead the most productive, the most inspiring, and the most meaningful life. Dear friends, I'm quoting from Judge Bernstein, who completed 3 of his 20 marathons after the accident. The Judge compares training for a marathon to becoming in touch with Judaism. When focusing on religious and spiritual growth, he says, it takes him one step at a time, one day at a time. I find that I personally can connect with God through struggle, challenge, and athletics. When you're in an Ironman and it's really scary and very intense, what you find is that if you're trying to have a relationship with your Creator, your relationship will grow stronger the more difficult things become. In addition to fulfilling his judicial responsibilities, dear friends, Bernstein maintains a hectic travel schedule. In February, he appeared as a keynote speaker at the United Nations Conference in Vienna. There he encouraged diplomats, government officials, and business leaders to work harder to include individuals and with disabilities in the workplace. He takes frequent trips to Israel, and also part of his travel schedule, he works closely with the Israeli government on the IDF Disability Integration Program. He is also helping the Knesset increase diversity in the Israeli judicial system. My friends, isn't this inspiring? Life is about fullness, not happiness. That's the secret, he says. You have to have a mission. I'm going to be working 15 hours today, and while it's exhausting, we're going to be making a difference and having this huge impact. And dear friends, I ask you to go online if you wish. Look up Richard Bernstein's, his inspiring TED Talk, and there you will have directly from him what I'm sharing with you. My friends, when I learnt of this and learnt about him, it inspired me to speak on the holiday of Shavuos. Actually, it was yesterday on Shabbos, as a continuation of the holiday of Shavuos, to remind ourselves of how important it is to allow our sacred voice inside of ourselves, that individuality to be foremost. The only problem is that we sometimes take our soul and we put it into a prison of sorts. I'm talking about the material world, into the physical body, and we place ourselves in the custody of very subjective parents and educators sometimes that affect our attitudes and bring up fears and insecurities. As such, we become vulnerable, defenseless to the forces surrounding us that want to take control of our development. Can you imagine? Imagine a child in his formative years. How much is foisted upon us by our family, our environment. So it is with our soul. It has so much going on. So as we develop and grow, shaped by the forces around us, what happens when we don't allow ourselves to come forward? Our soul recedes into the background. It kind of silenced, not allowed to express itself. Imagine the pain of a unique original soul that each of us have. Each of us have creative spirits that's now become trapped in this stale monotony of mediocre conformity. And it sits there waiting to be released from that prison of repetition, waiting to express its own individuality. That's my point today, my friends. Of course, thank God we have healthy, nurturing parents and influences which, of course, help the child to build the confidence to allow his or her soul to emerge. But even on the best scenario, the growth process, is filled with minefields as that gentle soul braves these untamed elements of this insensitive world around us. So, dear friends, let's make this resolution today to allow that sacred voice inside of ourselves to come to the forefront. To be able to say that I am a unique individual. I'm here to make a difference in this world, not just to follow the crowd and everything else around us, but make that big difference. You see, true freedom means that your choices, just like that beautiful story of Judge Bernstein, true freedom means that your choices are not imposed upon you from any force from the outside. It means that your behavior is driven by a free soul within, not by expectations, pressures, competition, vanity, insecurities, and all the other forces that somehow compel us to behave in a certain way. As I said, we're all born an original. Let's not become a copy, and to make an impact on this world in so many different ways. So yes, dear friends, Shavuos was last week, but the lessons of Shavuos continue to be with us as we nobly move forward with that aspiration, a noble individuality. Be unique. Make a difference. Make a difference in this world. Taking from the world doesn't make us different. Everybody's taking. All right, we need each other. There's no question about it. We live in a society. We must live in harmony and appreciate what others give us. But the purpose ultimately is not just what other people give us. It's what we give to the world. And the way we give to the world comes from our soul. And how do we unleash that powerful, unbelievable energy from our soul? That's where the Torah steps in and provides us with a unique look. For example, you wake up in the morning. We don't just wake up and get dressed. We say Moda Ani. We put a unique, and that Moda Ani comes from your mouth, from your soul. And then when we sit down to breakfast, we don't just sit there. We wash our hands. We think of the importance of the water elevated by our blessings, and we make hamotzi. We apply that stamp of individuality in this world. This is the host, Rabbi Pearl, telling you, I got to get out of here and make my impact in the world, just as you're going to do that. Have a wonderful day, dear friends. Sei gesund, a good year, and all the best.